list 100 times, and gosh, it's hard to break that down, about what to do and all that. Give it all to internet, apparently.
Ready, Freddie? All right. Good morning, Todd County. Welcome to Tuesday, March 21st, 2023, Todd County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today we have Commissioner Denny, Commissioner Becker, Commissioner Naska, Commissioner Newman present. Commissioner Erickson is absent. Also joining us is Auditor Treasurer, County Attorney, and the Coordinator. Would you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Once again, good morning. Is there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to amend the agenda to add 4.6. We have an additional consent item, would be Shady's Midway Incorporated for an on-sale, off-sale, and Sunday liquor license.
Okay. You've heard the request on the agenda. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Denny, second by Becker. Discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Put consent items.
Today we have meeting minute approval for March 7th, 2023, gambling permit for Society of St. Pius X, gambling permit Stretton Blackbirds NWTF, appoint an eligibility worker Kelly Bitts, start date 3/23/2023, appoint financial support services supervisor Julie Lambrick, start date 3/27/2023, and then the additional Shady's Midway Incorporated on, off, and Sunday liquor license.
Alrighty, you heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Naska. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
First item I have today is to approve the commissioner warrants. Background was sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in the amount of $82,100.38.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Naska. Discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item I have then would be the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in the amount of $106,827.95.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Naska. Discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
The next item I have is the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in the amount of $92,911.75.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion? If none, roll call.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
And the last one I have today is the transfer of funds, ARPA project expenses. Background, there still exists ARPA SLFRF, used expenses funds which have been approved by the county board involving the support of staffing positions. These expenses are not to be billed directly to the Fund 19 ARPA fund and now necessitate realignment to the county departments that incurred the expenses for inclusion of reporting to the U.S. Treasury. In order to comply with the audit standards, it is recommended to approve the transfer of funds from Fund 19 to Fund 01, the general revenue, in the amount of $17,237.23, and to Fund 11, human services, in the amount of $5,056.60, for a total of $22,293.83. Your options are to approve the attached resolution or do not approve the attached resolution, and is the recommendation to approve the attached resolution for the transfer of funds for ARPA expenses.
Okay. You've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Noska. Discussion.
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair, and Denise, if I could. When you just put approved by the attached resolution, that's okay to put on there, and then you would read the resolution because you didn't have to write all of that stuff?
Well, in this case, we disclosed all of it in the background, and so,
Right.
and we've disclosed it in the resolution. In most cases, if we wanted it visible for minute taking, we would list everything that's in the background in that recommendation line. But there comes some controversy when we do that because we pay the paper a large amount of money by putting every little character in
Word
there.
and detail in there.
So
Okay.
in this case, because I've explained it in detail in the background above, I am just saying, see the attached resolution, and then it discloses it in the attached resolution. So it is a tracking mechanism that you could go pull that. Typically, we would like to have everything listed in that recommendation line. But in this case,
Okay.
because we were disclosing so much information, it was
Yeah,
quite lengthy.
okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Public Works.
Good morning.
Morning.
Our one item this morning for Public Works is a request to approve an award of a construction contract for our 2023 gravel surfacing construction projects. The background is we led bids for 4 projects, gravel surfacing on County Road 60, 87, 95, and 97. And as you can see in the attached resolution, we got 3 bids. Also, I think I attached the abstract of bids. If you scroll down below that, you can see our estimate for this work was right around $361,000. Our low bid came in from Sanders Construction at $338,000, so about 6.2% under. The others were over the engineer's estimate, so we felt we got real good bids. We've got a good long-term standing relationship with Sanders Construction. They've done our work for a number of years. They do great work. We're happy they got the low bid. So our two options are to approve or do not approve the attached resolution. And our recommendation at this time is to approve the attached resolution, award a construction contract to Sanders Construction to do the gravel surfacing work for $338,800.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh,
You can have it.
second by Denny? Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried. Thank you.
And if I just make one note, the state has recommended that road restrictions are coming on Wednesday. So throughout the state, they'll be coming on and we'll be following suit. The sign should go up today and effective tomorrow at basically 12:01 a.m. Spring road restrictions will be on. So
Okay.
just thought I'd make mention.
Guarantee spring is coming?
Did what? Is it
Are
guaranteed?
you guaranteeing us spring is
I'm
coming?
not guaranteeing anything this year as far as weather. I know not to do that, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lord.
Lauren.
Planning and zoning. Adam.
Good morning.
Morning.
First item this morning is Eastwood Shores First Edition Preliminary Plat. A subdivision request to establish a 5-lot preliminary plat on parcel 21004840 in Round Prairie Township was submitted on December 13th. The application was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the March 2nd public hearing, and the final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to approve the preliminary plat with the conditions stated below. The options are to approve the preliminary plat with those proposed conditions, deny it, or remand it back to the Planning Commission. The recommendation is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and approve the preliminary plat for Eastwood Shores First Edition with the following conditions. 1, establishment of a drainage easement for protection of the wetland area on lots 1 and 2, and drainage easement shall include the wetland area and a 25-foot buffer around all sides. 2, that all driveway accesses must be approved by the township, and 3, that the applicant must abide by all other applicable federal, state, and local standards. Included the map, the location, and the preliminary plat should be included also for viewing. That's the outline of the property there. It has road frontage on Fisher Drive and 204th, which are established township roads. And then I think the last page is the actual preliminary plat, which is really big.
Yeah, it's big.
I won't get it on here.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Noska. Discussion.
Say, Adam?
Yes.
I do have a question. So it looks like lot 2 there. How much buildable acreage is actually on lot 2? Is that said somewhere?
Yes, it should be on there. If we go back to it here.
Sorry, I was
Yeah.
looking through it. I didn't see it real quick there, but
You asked about lot 1, right?
no, 2.
Lot 2.
Lot 1's a
Yeah.
lot larger lot. I mean,
Yep,
2's
lot
only-
2, it's right under the total acres, so it's 62,334 square feet.
Oh, buildable. Okay.
Yep,
Gotcha.
and ordinance requires 18,000.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Okay, next is the Dukowitz request for rezone. Request to rezone parcel 2200100000 in Staples Township from commercial to residential 2 was submitted on February 2nd. This request was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the March 2nd public hearing, and the final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the rezone with the conditions stated below. Option B, to grant to the rezone with those proposed conditions, deny the rezone, or remand it back to the Planning Commission for further consideration. The recommendation would be to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and grant the rezone to parcel 2200100000 from commercial to residential 2 with the following conditions. 1, that there will be from time to time the sights, sounds, and smells associated with the operation of farming. The landowner shall abide by section 9.11E of the Todd County Planning and Zoning Ordinance. 2, all driveway locations must be approved by the township. And 3, applicant must abide by all applicable federal, state, and local standards. This one just has a map associated with it also, so you can see the location. It's just on the outskirts of the city of Staples to the south.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Becker, second by Denny.
Yep.
Discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Okay, and lastly, Clarissa Amish Cemetery preliminary plat. A subdivision request to establish a one-lot preliminary plat on parcel 070035000 in Eagle Valley Township was submitted on February 6th. The request was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the March 2nd public hearing, and the final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to approve the preliminary plat with the conditions stated in the recommendation. Options are to approve the preliminary plat with the proposed conditions, deny the preliminary plat, or remand it back to the Planning Commission for further review. The recommendation is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and approve the preliminary plat for the Clarissa Amish Cemetery with the following conditions. 1, applicant must remain compliant with applicable federal local, state, and federal regulations related to the operation of a cemetery. 2, declare a cemetery official and an alternate that will be responsible for following state rules and provide contact information to the county to be recorded with the final plat. 3, maintain a list of individuals buried in exact locations within the cemetery. 4, cemetery plot must be completely fenced off with boundaries clearly identified. All burial sites must remain inside the fenced area. And 5, that all future driveway accesses must be approved by the township. And this one has the map also just west of Clarissa, and the preliminary plat is on there also.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Nazca. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion.
Yes, Adam, do we have a map of where these Amish cemeteries are actually located? And do we have any rules or regulations, so many per township, or no? You're
No, we don't
shaking
have
your
any
head no.
rules around that. There's actually not a lot of guidance or rules out there related to private cemeteries. We could easily create a map. We could go back through our CUPs of the past number of years and create that, but we don't have it made right now.
Okay.
That wouldn't
I
be too
think would
difficult.
probably be a good tool
Sure.
looking forward, so we don't getting them, too close together in,
Right. Yeah, I don't think that would be too difficult of a task to create that map, and we could certainly do that.
okay.
Thank you.
Yep,
So
thank
I have one question. So if these are abandoned, are they required statutory to maintain them?
I don't actually know the answer to that. It's something we've searched for, and I don't know if John and I can try to figure that out, but there is really not much out there for private cemeteries. It was when we started first, we've had several over the past few years, and we've tried to find guidance and direction on really how to handle them, and the only thing we've concluded is that they have to be platted, and then you can have that opportunity to create conditions related to that plat. Otherwise, there's not a lot of rules out there for private cemeteries.
Okay.
So now this will have its own parcel then, the
Yep.
cemetery, okay.
Yep,
So,
and
so if something ever happens separated from landowners, somebody, it's still its
Right.
own little entity.
And I believe their intention is to not, the Bontragos will not continue to own it. They'll actually sell it to the church or something like that, so it'll be a larger group that
Yeah.
owns it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Health and Human Services, Jackie.
Morning, Mr.
Good morning.
Chair, Commissioners. I have a few board action forms here I am here to present. The first one being the Todd County Public Health Advisory Committee list. Some background. Annually, we come in front of the Board of Commissioners here to review that public health list. The Public Health Advisory Committee does provide input into public health issues that affect Todd County. Your options are to approve the members serving on the Todd County Public Health Advisory or to not approve. Our recommendation is to approve the listed members serving on the Todd County Public Health Advisory Committee, and then they are listed as follows. I can go through them, or they are listed there for you. We do have members, we have two commissioners, Commissioner Becker and Commissioner Newman. We do have representation from each district, including the schools and our healthcare partners as well. This is always an evolving committee. People come and they go, and we try to recruit and retain as much as we can. And so it's always evolving.
Right.
But we do like to review it annually with you all.
Okay. You've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Carried. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Our next board action form is Energy Assistance Program Delivery for Federal Fiscal Year 2024. Hi, I've got company.
Yes, and I did bring
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Do you want to grab one for the paper? Thank you. So I'll go through the background here as you review the document Amy had just given you. The critical role of service providers in the administration and delivery of the Energy Assistance Program, also known as EAP, requires Minnesota Department of Commerce to request early notice of possible EAP service provider changes for federal fiscal year 2024. The Department of Commerce requires a written letter no later than March 31st, 2023, clearly stating the county's intent to administer and deliver EAP services for federal fiscal year 2024. Your options are to approve the notification to the Minnesota Department of Commerce, Todd County's intent to administer and deliver energy assistant program for federal fiscal year 2024, or not to approve. Recommendations are to approve the notification to the Minnesota Department of Commerce, Todd County's intent to administer and deliver the energy assistant program for federal fiscal year 2024. Amy, I'll let you kind of step in and talk about the statistics I think you handed out.
Yeah, I just, we can look daily for different statistics. So this is as of today. And we are at a 4.1 increase today as opposed to last year, which is we're very similar actually to last year. And other than that, we have 721.31 has been awarded in primary heat. $586 is the average primary heat per household. We have done 395 crisis events and expending $311,176.15. And I just put a little description, a very short description of what a crisis fund is. And that is after people have used their primary heat grant, or even possibly their initial grant is not enough. Say they're out of propane and their initial grant is $300. We can, add crisis right when they're approved. Or we can use it for electric disconnections or natural gas disconnections. And we have seen some very large disconnections amounts since COVID, because they weren't requiring people to pay their electric or natural gas bill, which did really not do any favors to the households, because it's easier to come up with $100 or $200 than it is $3,000 now after the fact. So,
Wow.
but we've been able to help people get back on their feet with that. We also, at the time we get them to a zero balance, we encourage them to apply with the gas or electric company for the CARE or GAP program, so that they have a manageable amount to pay, so they don't get back in that situation. So we do a lot in Todd County. Our participants know us on a personal level, and we do a system trying to figure out some other areas so they will be able to manage better too. So,
I've got a question, if I could.
yeah.
Do you give the awards out by the dollar amount, or by the gallons per se, or electricity by the kilowatts? You're granted so much, or is it just strictly the dollar amount? Because the dollar amount of fuel this year has just skyrocketed.
Yep. How it is figured out, and the Minnesota Department of Commerce, our grants were lower this year, but how it's figured is it's a matrix of your cost and consumption by your fuel type, and then based also on your household income.
Okay.
So we plug that all into what we call eHeat. It's our
Software.
software, and it spits out the amount. But, so yes, some of the grants have been low, and like you said, with the high costs this year, we're, you know, getting into the crisis money many times right when their grant is
Yeah.
figured. Because $300 or $56 is not going to go very far.
No, exactly right.
Their, excuse me, their benefit is issued by dollar amount, though.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to give a kudos to Amy and the team for the work that has come in and the amount of applications. There's a lot of applications,
Oh, you can see
not
that
enough
this
dollars to go around. I know they try to distribute it the best that they can, but they do a good job. I believe our distribution of services is greater than some of our larger contiguous counties. So they do a good job managing the program.
Yeah.
So Amy, I got a question. The 85 water events, is that like city, basically?
Yes. So the water sewer funding is new last year. And it's separate
Thought.
from, people's grant. It's a crisis fund, basically. And yes, so it is with the municipal connected water and sewer.
Okay.
It does not help people who have a well or
Right.
anything like that.
Okay.
So, and I'm not sure if this funding is gonna continue or not.
Because I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
It's kind of new
It
to me.
came with COVID.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so then the only other thing we didn't hit on here was that for homeowners, we also have money to repair or replace their furnace or heating system. So, and we have done 62 households, 24 of them have been replacements, and expending the $152,944.90.
Okay.
That's about it.
Much covers it?
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed on the top, Amy has listed the number of households served, or maybe she mentioned that and I missed it, but 1,266 already this year.
Wow.
So we'll be seeing that contract, this is intent to provide services for 2024. We'll be seeing that contract come through the Department of Commerce in the next month.
They're
Or
usually
so-
due in August.
August,
I
Yeah,
think.
okay.
it'll be due in August.
I was thinking it was before July, but it's after July. Okay.
Okay.
Just to kind of take note to that.
And just one thing I'd like to add, that with the 1266, there are many more households that would be eligible for energy assistance, and that is, something we're always striving for, is to get that word out and get more people to apply, but it proves to be kind of difficult sometimes to get the new participants.
Okay. Any questions? Any more questions? If not,
Interesting facts, thank you.
I
Yeah, and
would,
again, I apologize for my it's kind of a messy document, but
no, it
What needs to be.
points out where people that need help, they're getting the help if they ask for it.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, we have a board action here to approve notification to the Minnesota Department of Commerce, Todd County's intent to administer and deliver energy assistance program for the year 2024. Do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you.
Amy, thanks for coming up, but I also want to introduce our new Financial Services Unit Manager,
Okay.
who is here alongside Lisa until Lisa retires in June, Stephen McCoy. So this is his first, I think, official board meeting as a manager, and we replaced his position today in the consent agenda with Julie Lamperk. So welcome to her, but also welcome to Stephen. Thanks for coming. You'll see more of them.
Thank you. Thank you for stepping up. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a request to rescind board action tracking number 2023-0307-15. Some background, rescind board action for tracking number 2023-0307-15. Todd County Health and Human Services will continue to recruit for the open house home health aide position. Your options are to approve the rescinding of the board action form or to not approve. We are recommending that you rescind the board action form tracking number 2023-0307-15.
All right, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Was Mike going to be here?
Mr. Chair, no, this was being brought forward by administration.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay, so, Mr. Chair, I have a board action this morning for ARP funds for solid waste staffing, approve the final project amount. The background for this is on September 21st, 2021, the Solid Waste Department requested use of ARP funds to continue use of temporary staff through Doherty Staffing Agency to assist with staff shortages, which was approved via board action 2021-0921-19. The request also included an increase to the compensation from $12 to $15 per hour for direct payroll cost. The cost for temporary staffing has been included in the 2023 solid waste budget, and the need for ARP funds no longer exists. The estimated cost for Doherty services was $129,200. The actual costs incurred were $73,871.50. The Finance Committee recommends approving the final amount for this project cost of $73,871.50 and allow the remaining funds of $55,328.50 to be available for other proposed projects brought forward to the Board of Commissioners. The options are to approve the final amount of ARP funds previously authorized via that board action number for solid waste staffing costs at $73,871.50 and allow remaining funds of $55,328.50 to be available for other proposed projects brought forward to the Board of Commissioners, or not approve, and the recommendation is to approve this.
Okay, you've heard the request to approve. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Noska. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, just with this board action coming forward, you will see other ones coming forward after this, just as kind of a closeout of the use of those funds and allow us to put it back in the pool.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right. With that, we are going to go into a closed session. The commissioners will hold a closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D05 Subdivision 3B. This is to discuss potential concerns raised regarding prior history of Kayleen Madison, HR manager candidate, that are subject to attorney-client privilege. And I'd ask for a motion to go into closed session, right? Okay. Motion by Noska. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried. 9:34. Yeah.
Second.
Second by Becker. To reopen the board meeting. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We are reopened. And with that, I'm going to go to the county coordinator.
Okay, thank you. Denise, can I have you switch the screen? Okay, Mr. Chair, at this time, I have a board action to approve the hire of Human Resources Manager Kayleen Madsen. The background is a vacancy exists in administration due to retirement of Human Resources Manager. The interview process was completed, and Kayleen Madsen has been selected as the best candidate for this position. The start date is to be determined. The options are to approve hire of Kayleen Madsen as Human Resource Manager at grade 14, step 3 of the salary grid, or do not approve, and the recommendation is to approve. This is a budgeted position, and the financial implications are listed below.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Denny, second by Nazca. Discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, standing reports. Auditor treasurer.
Well, the only thing I have to report is that the auditors will be here tomorrow on site to do our yearly audit, so, and they will probably want to speak with one commissioner. They usually do a legal questioning of potential fraud or anything that you would be aware of in the county, so I may be selecting one of you, so just be ready to be prepared to visit with them.
I did it last year.
That's all I have, thank you.
Oh, thank you. County attorney.
I wanted to remind folks who might be listening online that there is a free legal clinic in our law library the last Monday, or the fourth Monday of every month, so that'll be next Monday, from 1 to 3. You contact the St. Cloud Legal Aid Office. I don't happen to have the number with me, but call my office if you need it. It's fantastic. It's not income dependent. Anybody has any legal questions from 1 to 3. They have real lawyers there to help out. And I think there are interpretive services available. It's a super new thing that we're doing. So otherwise, all's well. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners report. Commissioner Nazca.
Yeah, I guess since last meeting, we met with the Ag Society Fair Board, Tim and I did, and kind of just discussed their daily event schedule for the fair. So kind of getting things together for that. And then on the 13th, met with GWCC, and we're informed that a sports staff position was filled. That was nice. Nice to hear. And then the second damage claim for the building, which is a total loss now. So that's maybe a blessing in disguise. Who knows? That's all I have.
Commissioner Becker.
Yes, on the 8th, we had a department head meeting. On the 9th, we had soil and water meeting. The 13th was corrections, and Lou said we discussed the corrections building in Eagle Bend and so forth. And then we also had personnel on the 13th. On the 15th, I attended the feedlot meeting that was hosted by Soil and Water. They did an outstanding job, I felt, that day. Very informative, very good. And then on the 15th, we also attended the broadband meeting at the Barville High School. On the 16th, I attended the Long Prairie Watershed meeting, and that should be off and flying. Water or grants should be available yet this summer for projects. And we also had our first finance meeting on the 16th.
Okay.
That's all for me.
Okay, Commissioner Denny.
I don't have my notes with me today, but I'll go as much as I can. Hilltop Kitchen meeting was short and sweet due to absence from a few people. Everything looks good there. Hands of Hope, we still have a few positions available. Having a hard time filling them. And then again, I met with Lou about the fair board, and their summer looks like it's looking pretty busy and getting every night packed, and they're putting a lot of thought into all that, which is good. They're trying to get the most attendance and make it really family friendly. And yep, met with, or went to the Broadband Coalition meeting with Commissioner Becker and Commissioner Newman there. And, I know I'm forgetting something, but, that's good enough for now, I guess.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give my commissioner meeting report on the 4th of April, the first board meeting. But Saturday, I did get a call to attend the Second Amendment rally, I guess you call it, at the Osakas Community Center. Was there with Sheriff Allen and 4 state representatives and a couple of other speakers. Thought it was very interesting. Sheriff Allen said, we thought there was going to be a crowd of about 30 to 40. There was like 200. So it was a really well-attended event. After that, I started getting phone calls from residents in the other counties. Todd County did pass that second amendment support on March 17th of 2020, right before COVID hit. So right now, there's other counties. There's some bills going through the Capitol right now on gun rights where it's very concerning. And we need to let our legislators know that we are concerned about the Second Amendment, so the right to bear arms. So that's all I have with that. Coordinator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I attended a number of the meetings that were already discussed. HR and administration have been very busy with recruiting, and I'd like to share, I feel like we're getting more candidates potentially, and some really good candidates, and that's hopefully a new trend that we'll be seeing going forward, but we do have a lot of openings, and we're working through those. I'm very thankful that we're going to be hopefully getting an HR manager on soon, so thank you for that. Also with that, I'd like to just say thank you to all of you who have shown support and prayers and thoughts with the loss that I had last week, and thanks for your patience.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else that needs to come in front of this board? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn for the month of March. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We're adjourned. We will do the work session. 2023 Todd County Board of Commissioners work session to order. First on the agenda today is the 2023 assessment summary. Chris Odden, County Assessor. Chris, morning.
Morning, thank you. Thanks. I'm here today as a continuation of the last time I was here was a month ago and gave you kind of a preview of what the data was looking like. And in the last month, we have finalized the 2023 county assessment. This morning, you each should have found a 3-ring binder at your desk. And that gives I'm just going to kind of go through some of the data in there today. It's a lot. It's a reference guide to use at your own discretion. I've divided it into a few different sections. The first section is going to show you abstract pages like you see on the screen in front of you for people watching and in the room. This shows the 2023 versus what we were 1 year ago at the same time. What I have on the screen here shows that we are showing an increase in value of almost 19% this year. Last year it was 20. So it's very, very similar to where we were 1 year ago today. In your packets, you will find that the next 40 pages are township specific. The first page is county as a whole. So you'll see residential, ag, apartments, commercial, industrial, and so forth. At the bottom of that page, you'll see the difference between the new construction that we have added. These are anything from potential remodels to brand new construction. Each year we receive permits and we physically go to the site to review what has been built or remodeled. And those numbers are here in front of you. These new construction items will be valued. So they were built in 2022. We assess them in 2023, and they will be taxed for the first time in 2024. So the items on here, that $44 million is not going to be taxed in 2023, even though it's 22 because of the lengthy process. So the next section you will find is a few different graphs. The first graph on your sheet is the county as a total. 6 years. I've been providing this information for 6 years, so this is the kind of how we're sitting. So the purple line you see here is the county's total value as a whole. Obviously, it's climbing. And the bottom lines are blue is apartment, commercials, and industrials. Ag is shown as red, and residential and seasonal properties are shown as green. Again, each individual market has increased. It's not news, certainly just reviewing some numbers here for you. The next 5 pages, you're going to see similar bar graphs. The one I have up here is, so I've divided the county into 4 quadrants. The northwest, northeast, southeast, southwest. What I have on the screen here is the northwest. So you'll see like the first township listed here is Stowe Prairie, and we give a 6-year total value history of Stowe Prairie Township. This is done for every township and every city in the county. Here's a similar graph that depicts the 10 cities located in the county. Again, the orange graphs, or the orange bars, are the 23 data. So you can see Staples had a very large increase, Long Prairie had a very large increase. But the word you're going to hear over and over is increase. That's every market, every jurisdiction, every property type increase. So moving right along, the next section that I have listed for you, I called it Land and Lakes. This gives you a total building schedule. County Assessor's Office divides the land into different property types, whether that is tillable, pasture, meadow, woods, waste. And each one of those is also divided out by location. So for example, tillable land in Candota Township will range anywhere from $4,000 to $4,800. Burnhamville Woods is also $4,800. So this, if you're talking to a taxpayer or a concerned citizen, this would be a graph that shows where their values are. The next page is the same thing, but
Chris, can I just ask?
yes, go ahead.
When I'm looking at this land schedule that you just gave us,
Mhm.
and I'm looking between two townships, does that vary on how much land was sold in that township then?
Not necessarily how much, but how much it sold for.
How much the cost of the land is, okay.
Yep,
And
so-
the sales, so the sales is what generated that.
The sales data tells us what the market is on any particular thing. Now, whether that thing is a lake or an acre of tillable land, we're going to use current sales to determine the value of any particular piece of real estate.
Okay. Yeah, because between Moran and Fond Lake, it's a huge number,
Significant difference. Yep, and we see that in the market.
yeah.
Yep.
And they're,
Land in Moran sells for higher than land in Fond Lake, but it sells about the same as land in Ward. Burnhamville and Gray Eagle seem to mimic each other quite a bit as well. Stowe Prairie, Bertha, a lot the same. Like what happens in one, that line is on a map and farmer doesn't care about that line, but those types within seem to act the same. Or maybe it's the market within, maybe it's the purchasers or the sellers. Very geographical. This green sheet is the same format, except it shows the difference from 22 to current values. The ones in green have increased, the ones in red have decreased. A lot of green. And see what's next here. To kind of follow up, Commissioner Becker, on your question, the next section is a map of only tillable value. So this gives the user a perspective of how tillable land is valued. Generally speaking, the northeast is our least valued, and the market gets stronger from there. And to use your example, Moran's at $3,200 on average. Its neighbor Fond Lake is $2,000, but Villard's also $2,000. Those two markets seem to mimic each other. While Moran and Ward, 32 versus 33. Again, very closely tied. And my example of Stowe Prairie, Bertha, Wycombe, all in those $3,000, $3,800. And again, getting stronger as we travel further south. The final page in this section is lake value. This is a front foot value. The number I show here is the absolute highest number you're going to find on the lake. That doesn't necessarily mean that every foot on Mons Lake is 1,000, but that's as high as we're going. So a person may have a very muddy, weedy, steep, any sort of adjustments for lakeshore. We start at the top, which is what I'm showing you, and we will adjust downward from there. All right. The next section I have listed is the Board of Equalization. Every year we go to most of the townships and we discuss the values. We have interested taxpayers come and dispute their values, and these are the meetings that we're going to do that at. Unfortunately, online I don't have a lot of stuff, but in your packets I have a schedule. I have a example of what an equalization notice looks like. And I also have just some information on assessment versus tax, just kind of outlining the whole process. I'm not going to read this here today, but you can certainly look at it. And the final section is actual sales. So there's two distinct sections in here. One is bare land sales. All of these sales have at least 34.5 acres. And I have provided the buyer name, seller name, when they purchased it, how much, what the land type is. So this is virtually the exact same thing that I use to set the values. So you have the data that I have. The next section is the same thing, but with residential markets. I am open for any questions. I know I've provided a lot here, so if anybody wants to come see me in my office, call me, email, please let me know if there's questions or things you'd like to see differently, or things that I may not have explained well today. But open.
Chris, on your Board of Appeals and Equalization schedule,
Mhm.
some of them you have open book.
Open book. Those open book meetings are jurisdictions that have given their ability to change the assessment back to the county.
Okay.
So if an open book, that township board or city council has chosen not to hold a meeting any longer, we still have a period of time that those taxpayers can come and discuss. And if we don't come to an agreement, that's when they would also be able to come forward to you in June. So they do lose one part of their process, but they don't lose that final step, that final ability to have it heard by another third party, which is the county board.
Did any of them happen because of the townships not going or getting
Training?
that training?
Yes.
Yes, it
Yep.
did.
Some have lost it because they did not get trained. Some have volunteered to no longer hold it because there was a lack of interest. Some lost it because of training, got trained, got the meeting back, and realized that there's nobody here, so they gave it back anyway.
Okay.
So there's been a few different scenarios of why it's an open book.
But if a township loses it due to training, they can gain it back again? By
They
doing
can.
training?
There's a process, and we would walk them through that process.
Okay.
All right, I guess my question is to the auditor treasurer, when's the payable 2023 tax statements coming out?
Printers right now. Doing some editing and should drop this week.
Okay,
By law, have to be out by March 31st.
they have to be out by March
Be
31st.
mailed by March 31st. So you should make that deadline, no problem. It's just, they're critiquing a few things.
So just to give the two new commissioners a heads up, that's when she's coming out, that's when. Okay,
Phones start ringing.
just be ready. Perfect.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add just a little bit to that, we received the Morrison County record at our house, and I shared with Chris that, they had a large article in the paper regarding their values, and they're seeing the same exact thing.
So this is a copy of that article we discussed this morning. I found it online. Again, they're using kind of a shading technique here. Reading through the article, residential property increase is 25 to 30%. Ag and res is 30 to 40. I looked at their records from last year, and they were at 22 last year. They're at 40 this year. Our reporting time frame ends on March 31st as well, so I don't have a lot of data from other counties at this time. Ours is all in, we're done. That's why I'm able to give this presentation today. These are locked. Our notices will be mailed on Thursday of this week, so they should be in mail boxes by Saturday.
Okay.
But yeah, Morrison looks like they're gonna have it a little stronger than we are.
And the only way they're gonna change this is down at the state level, the capital, to change the format of how we assess taxes, and
Yeah.
they have to change it down there, because somebody shouldn't get penalized for wanting to live on their property when their neighbor sells. And that's what's happening. Your neighbor can sell for whatever, and you get penalized for it because you're gonna pay a higher, assessment. And that's wrong. And that's why we're getting at the point right now with the elderly, they can't afford their damn taxes.
And you're absolutely right. Statute requires us to value at market value.
Yep,
And you'd see that in this article too. It's,
yeah.
um,
So,
but on that note, valuing at market value and taxing at market value are two separate issues. And I think they could be addressed separately, but
and the only way the board can control that portion of it is through our levy. Setting our levy low, keeping that mill rate down, that's it. So, but thank you for this, information in the book, and,
you're welcome.
hopefully the phones won't ring a lot. So,
Yeah,
thanks.
if you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate. Thank you.
We'll do that.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
the
Chris.
information, Chris.
All right. Todd County Broadband Coalition. And for the record, Greg, we'll have you guys introduce yourselves, so when we get everybody set up here, and when you're ready. All right.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you? My name is Greg Hendrickson, and we are with the Broadband Coalition, and I'm going to have these two introduce themselves right away.
Okay.
John Peters, computer shop over here.
Okay, welcome.
And we do have our chairman, Ken, is in the back there.
Ken?
But anyways, we are here. I hope you guys are excited about this, because we are. This is going to be what we're bringing. We're trying to bring to Todd County. Here's the internet, which is going to be just as important to the residents as electricity was 100 years ago. So we really have an opportunity here to do good for the residents of Todd County. And I'm kind of excited that you guys are hearing us today about this. What we're going to tell you a little bit about what we've done, what we have achieved so far, and give you the results of our survey, and ask you for a funding of $120,000 to take it to the next phase, which will be the feasibility study. So we'll get right to it. Our initial projects and accomplishments that we have done, you see the survey there. We would have loved to present the entire survey to you, but we have time constraints. But to sum it up, Todd County residents need it and want it. They want it affordable and they want it reliable. Those three things. And that's basically the summary of the survey. Now, a couple of other things that we've accomplished is, we are a very diverse group. What you see here today is certainly not a representative of us. We're from all parts of the county. We represent a lot of different segments of this county, and we are extremely diverse. And we have already had a Hispanic outreach. We've got an interpreter to interpret anything that needs to be interpreted. We got farmers out there. We got lawyers. We got doctors. Everybody that's involved in this broadband. And it's such a diverse coalition that, it doesn't happen very often. You get a diversity in Todd County that come together for something this important. So it is extremely important for all the residents of Todd County. We've reached out to some of our disadvantaged residents, and we've already received a grant for that. And Jim here has been, or John has been taking, sorry, John.
That's okay, Fred.
And John has already got that grant awarded, and he's been working with the Sheriff's Department on that. John can do some more talking about that a little bit later. We've had initial contacts with the vendors for this feasibility study, and we're looking at 2 of them for the bidding process. And we've already started some consulting and negotiating with those. Now, the money that we're asking for is for the feasibility study. And what that feasibility study will do for us is going to determine what is currently available out there for the internet. It will determine what the needs are for the county. It'll determine the cost, and then it'll also determine the project plan. So part of the funding will be the initial feasibility study, and the second part of the funding that we're asking for is to give the contracts to these bidders and let them do all the negotiating to make it basically shovel-ready when we come back in and ask for the second part of the funding. So our initial funding we're going to be asking for is 120 grand for the feasibility study and the contracts. And then we will be back at some point for $1 million to set aside to roll this project out. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the federal government it's a 4-to-1 or is it a 5-to-1 for the?
If we put in 25%, they'll put in 75. So if we put in 1 million, we've got 4 million. That's on 3 of the programs that we've studied, and there are about 8 other ones that we don't have times as volunteers to actually do with that. So there's a lot of money out there that we need to have somebody professional and full-time working on this. So that's why we're asking for this, and we want to make sure that the government knows that we are willing to put some skin in the game so we can beat out some of the other counties for this money.
Okay.
Do you have any questions at this time for us?
Guess not. Nope.
Mr. Chair, Denise, just help me out a little bit. When we do tax levy, every 100,000 is 1%, right? Is that close to what we were?
That's been the
Yeah, so,
format in the
so $1
past.
million would be how much percent added onto the tax levy? That would be what, 10%?
Probably, yeah.
At least, yeah.
Roughly 10%. Yeah,
I do believe, Barb, though, any investment you make in this internet, the county is gonna get back twice-fold easily. Your
Yeah.
tax base will increase, you're gonna have families moving in here with houses. Right now, we got reports from realtors that they're losing deals because families can't have internet, so they're canceling deals.
question, I mean,
I mean,
we
there's-
were very,
there's nothing negative about this.
We
This
were
is only
very-
positive for the entire economy.
Go ahead, Barb.
fortunate to get it in on the CTC when they came out south of Staples and so forth, and it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I mean, there's no question that, yeah, if you don't have it, you need it. I'm just looking strictly at the cost right now, and we just, as you see, we just got through what's happening here, so just balancing, it's a balancing act, yes.
And we understand the fact that we are making an ask here, that we also know that probably in October or November, more money will be coming from the state to the counties for this. We also know that early 2024, that there will probably be more money coming from the federal government to the state, which they can roll out. This is all available through the Broadband USA Coalition, in which they've detailed all the grants that are being worked on and will be coming available. I was down in Shakopee Mystic Lake for this presentation, and we're in competition for these later grants by showing that we are willing to do something. And it's the later grants that will finish this project, which will not be cheap totally. We know that, and we do need to have a slow, even rollout plan to do this, because we can't do it overnight, because there's a lot of things that got to be done, and possibly several steps to this program. So, and I don't know if you just take a look at the stories that we have sometime. I'm not going to ask you to read them right now, but we did do some editing on there to take out some words that we didn't think should be in a written report.
Okay.
But, so, you know, and if you take a look look at the presentation, that, we feel that the county will probably increase more than the amount of money that individual homeowners will be taxed.
So let's start with the survey
Yeah,
on page 2.
page 3.
You got page 2 there. So explain to us what you guys did, and we'll kind of go walk through this.
Sure. What we have here is the little dots on the map are showing where people have responded on
Okay.
there. We have their addresses, which we do not publish on here. So we had 515 different homes, okay?
Okay.
39 cabins, 10 businesses, and 12 that they didn't tell us what they were, okay, whether it was a home or a business. So, and then if we go to the next thing, where the home was 1 or 2 people, we had a total of 499 people. That would be parent, children, grandparent, whoever is in the house. Homes that had 3 to 5, we had 244 homes with that, with 970. With more than 6, we had 307 people. So actually, the number of people representative is 1,007, almost 1,800. So, on there, 9% have no access to internet at all of these homes. And that probably means that they don't have cell reception either, okay? That's a guess. We didn't ask that specifically, okay? And we did not include cellular in the next things.
Okay.
69% of the county has something other than cellular. That could be DSL information, that could be cable information on there, and 22% only have cellular. So now, DSL will not meet the standard that will give us money from the state and the feds. You have to have almost 5 times, well, 20 times faster capability with minimum of 5 times at the lowest price. That's the only way you can get it. So anybody that has the copper connections on there will not meet requirements, nor the reliability. And if you have wireless on the towers, it won't meet the reliability. So any questions on what I just said there?
I got a question on the survey. Did you guys do a mass mailing on the survey, or how did you?
Well, one reason we still have money left in there, we didn't do a mass mailing. We sent it out through the schools. We sent it out online. We advertised it on the paper. We advertised it on the radio, and we went around the townships and gave the URLs to put the survey in.
Okay.
So it's almost, we had paper copies that they could pick up at the library, at my office, at all the libraries, economic development, that they could do that there.
Okay.
And also, I personally helped people fill it out online that didn't have good enough internet. So that's how we did the survey. We didn't do the mass mailing because we thought we would need more money down the line.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Mhm. So, almost 50% of the people have somebody that works from home that needs an internet. I've been out there to several of them, and there are certain things that they just can't get done because they don't have fast enough internet. In fact, it was last Friday, I was out at a home in which they were trying to configure their paper. They had DSL, and they couldn't get the drivers for their printer downloaded in the time that I was there. So I actually came into town, downloaded them, and brought them back out because they did not have enough speed to do what they needed to do. Home businesses, another 21%, so that's 72% of the people that responded, and that they might have leaned a little bit toward here. Well, actually, some of these are matched, so I can't say that. I've just made a mistake, I'm sorry. But some of these have all of above. And some of these people that had to attend school online. Now, what happens in a family is if you have an adult doing their home business and a college student and possibly a high school student all doing their homework at the same time, it's not going to work with a lot of the people that have families like that. So, and of the people that don't have any services at all at their location, that are not using access at 60%, 40% of the people said the price is too high. So, and if you look through the comments and the notes later on, you'll see that reliability is a big issue with all this, if you can't get it through there. And 2% of the people said, I don't want it. And, which is understandable. I mean, we'll find 2 to 5% of people that don't want anything. So, oh, by the way, we did not survey the Amish. Okay, they didn't do it, okay? So just numbers of people that use different types of things. For me, email, video calls, and social media is the highest count on there. Entertainment, I really don't care about on this. My wife does, because I watch football while she watches Hallmark TV, but on there. But I find it very important for a person my age is the health care. During the last 3 years, plus with COVID and non-COVID issues, I've used telemedicine several times. So I've got customers out here that are using their home security and they're on their farm security with cameras on there, and we have problems with it, I'll tell you. So a lot of people on there, a lot of people get information about you guys from online on that, so we do that, and then quite a bit on this. So, and these are what you would use, not necessarily what they are currently using.
I want to add one thing that, and I
Yeah,
don't
go
want to
ahead.
interrupt you, is, what this summary does not project is the real world stuff. Like, I'm going to give you a couple examples here. A little fact, 1,800 veterans are in this county. They have to have certain medicines. You can't pick that up at Coburn's. You have to go to the VA. So you either order it online, or else you have to make the trip down to St. Cloud. A lot of them are going down to St. Cloud to get that. There's a farm family I know up in, I think it's Tim. I think it's in your district, the Rowe family. But they also have a farm in your district right out of right by Don's store there, that area. And they got an experimental farm, and what they're doing there is they're also getting financial backers for that. But what these financial backers are providing is equipment, and all this equipment relies on the internet to function. So they're getting all this equipment that is kind of being useless to them. That's real world stuff that's happening in this county. They want it. Everybody needs it. So we do it, and that's something, the real world stuff isn't projected in this survey.
And I do have a vet coming into my office once a month to do his medical discussion down in St. Cloud, because 10 miles is a lot closer than St. Cloud.
Right.
Or the Twin Cities. So I do have people coming in, and I do offer that service, but I don't think everybody wants that. You can say what you want about whether they think about an internet service, okay? And the last part of it is the people that have on here and what the number of people have in there, what they use, how many computers they have, things like that. And there's how many different vendors we have, which is our biggest problem as far as cost getting a consultant, the number of vendors we have to talk to. That's why we need a professional to do this, because we're all volunteers and doing stuff on there. If you take a look at performance costs and other factors, 49% of the people think that everything is too high. Okay? 57% say their speed is not enough to do what they got to do. And reliability, 45% thinks stinks. So, and we have people who are extremely satisfied. We won't talk about the people in the middle, but yeah, a third of the people are really satisfied. But those are the people that, like in Long Prairie, that have CTC or Spectrum, or up in Staples, that have all that information. So they're all satisfied that already have fiber on there. So, and just because people, on the next page, the satisfaction, just because people are not satisfied with the current have, that doesn't mean we're not gonna talk to all the vendors, because maybe we can make them satisfied with that. That was a maybe, by the way, based on some of the comments on there. Speed, about the same thing. So nobody likes Usenet. Reliability, nobody likes Usenet. So, any questions on the rest of this? Anything else that I didn't cover?
Well, you know, and I agree with you on affordability of it. I have Arvig and I'm bundled. I have my landline, my internet and TV, and I'm paying $260 a month. And if I was retired, I'd have to take a gander at that and say, okay, what am I gonna cut on that? Because it would probably be the TV. But you know, that's really high. The other question after attending your guys' meeting the other night is the providers and trying to figure out the providers, okay? If you can't go across another provider's line, even if I wanted to hook up somebody that's 200 feet away and they won't allow that, how do we get around the providers? How do we get the providers to play nice?
Yeah.
Okay, because what I'm being told, and the conversation I had with Representative Wiener, Wadena is 95% hooked up right now.
Wadena County or the town of Wadena?
Wadena County. County's all hooked up, okay? So, what did that cost them, number one? And I gotta do some research, with one of the commissioners up there. So, what it cost Wadena County to get wired? They had one provider, I believe, that they had to deal with. I don't know who the provider was.
Todd Wadena Electric.
Okay. So, we come down into Todd County, okay? Our area is Arvig. If coming out of Sauk Center is Arvig. Over by Birch Lake, I think it's Arvig. Part of the northern part of the county is
Yeah,
Arvig, but then there's,
CTT wanted to go further west when they did our area, and they ran into Arvik, and that's where they were stopped. Yeah.
so I'm in support of this, but we gotta figure out
We've got major, yeah.
Well, okay, that's why we get somebody like him involved eventually, at that point. But, first of all, what I have heard, and I would have to get professional consultation on this, is these agreements are handshakes and they're not binding. Okay? So if we did find an aggressive PERT group, we could do that. I can't sit down and do the negotiation with all the vendors. We're gonna talk to all the vendors, coming up. That's one of our next steps, is to talk to all the vendors and see what they say, but then we're actually gonna have the, quote, professional, either through the consulting firm or, that we'd hire, because we want a single point person to handle all of this and keep reporting back to you and us about what's happening there and what we can negotiate. It's completely possible, you know, because everybody wants to do the towns, because that's where the density of the population is. It's completely possible through some of these grants that we could let a group do the town and then use money to make them, not necessarily make them, encourage them to go out into the rural areas. I'm on Horseshoe Lake, we have CenturyLink there. And there's a few places, but I'm 50 feet too far away from the junction box to get it, and I'd get very slow, so, so that's kind of how we have to look at. We understand that, you know, what, Benton County, or is it Becker County?
Benton.
Benton County only had 3 providers. And so they forced it down to 1. We've got, you know, and it's gonna be a very tough negotiation, and it's going to maybe require some hardball.
A better example than using Wadena for their internet would be to look at Benton County. They're a more realistic example of what we're going through. And they took it, the commissioners actually took the bull by the horn there on that county, and they got it done. But I would look at that county, because they have more representation of what we've got going on here other than Wadena.
Yeah, again, Benton County only had 3 vendors in there. Their current plan is to have half their county done in 2023 and the other half in 2024. And they went through all of this that we are just going through. We are probably ahead of, in our information here, about 2/3 of the counties in the state. And about 1/3 of them are ahead of us and going after this money. So that's the last I heard. I was talking, the person, I can't remember his name, Chris, the head of the Association of Counties.
Are you talking
AMC.
Nathan Zacharias?
Yeah, I was talking to him, and that's where he kind of placed it when I told him where we were at. So, and that was sitting in the buffet line, talking about stuff in between sessions.
Mr. Chair, if I could just maybe add a little bit of dialogue. We do have some providers within Todd County that have been very proactive, and they want the same thing that you want. They want to see good internet throughout all of the county, and they are taking advantage of these state and federal grants that are available. They're going after them, and that's great, and I would really want to encourage them to continue to do that. And there is so much funding out there for those providers to go after. So I just hope they keep doing that, because it's great to see that.
And the thing is, some of the grants will not come through us, through you, the county, to the provider. It may come directly from the government to the provider, the way I understand it.
And I think offline, I'd like to maybe have a conversation with you, John, because I have not seen like specific money for broadband coming directly to a county. I haven't seen that. So I'd like to maybe have a sidebar conversation on where that is.
Okay, I don't know if the money comes from the county. The county has to submit the grant.
And a lot of them have been provider-driven,
Yeah,
and they've been successful.
yeah, and I understand that, so, but I think you guys have already sent a letter of recommendation for a vendor to do something.
Absolutely.
And that's, you know, and we want to sweeten the pot for anybody we can.
Sure.
We just want it, we need it. Talking to the realtors, Vicki Meyer said she lost 3 sales just in the last 6 months because they were ready to buy the house, and where's the internet at? And it wasn't there. And so they ended out going to another lake.
So, would you guys have a list of all the providers within Todd County that we as a board could draft a letter and request where they stand as far as providing internet within Todd County?
We will get that for you, won't we?
Would
We
you
can get that.
Would you please do that? And
Get that to you.
list all of them separately, and if you have a contact name, please put that down.
Well, Ken just got a phone call from Arvig yesterday,
Okay.
and CTC's contacted me directly. I keep wanting to say what's the name?
Is SciTech.
SciTech?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be very important for this
Yeah, I
board
think it
to
is very
understand,
important. Yeah.
you know, and then, a map of where they're at. I thought I seen one before.
Yeah,
Didn't you
but we
guys
don't
have
know
one?
if we don't know if those are up to date.
And this is part of the feasibility study, to find out what we don't know. You know,
Okay.
where everything is at this location. There is a map, you did see it, and like, you know, John said, it's not accurate.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, I would also like to say this group has done excellent work, so thank you so very much for all of your efforts on trying to bring broadband to the county.
Yes.
And this is definitely a learning experience. You know,
And I think it is for us too,
Yeah,
because,
so,
you
I mean,
know,
it's-
when COVID hit, I was getting calls going, you know, people had dead spots, and you're right, there was 3, 4 of them trying to do their homework online, and they couldn't do it because they didn't have reception, so then they'd get in their vehicle and try to drive around with their phones and try to, yeah.
yeah, and
Made it really
McDonald's
interesting.
just had their drive-through open, but they did have internet.
Yeah.
In the Coburns and all these places in the library, so yeah. But we probably will be coming directly for money in an official presentation to the board for the total feasibility study, or to bring the consultant on to do the feasibility study and the detailed talks with the vendors.
Okay.
So that's, you know, we will be asking for that money. Again, we possibly, we think we have money left in the 20,000. I didn't get the budget numbers today. We could roll some of that into that money, but we don't know yet. I don't want to give anything back, but, so.
Okay.
Rule number 1, if you got it, don't give it back. I learned that doing work with Honeywell, so.
All right. But
Okay?
we will, like I said, we will help you guys out as much as we can, and if you guys get a list of those providers, we will draft a letter up. Make sure you guys take a look at it, if you're okay with it, and then we'll send it off.
Okay, sounds good.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add one thing, and just so we're all clear, the 20,000 that was supplied to the Broadband Coalition was specific to the survey, just so we're really clear about that. So that was specific to the survey and the advertising for that survey.
Yeah, now, yeah, I understand that.
thank
That's why
you,
I said
John.
we may have to roll it over to the next one.
Thank you.
Also, one of the things that we did not really get a hold of was the Hispanics. We will be having somebody going around and talking strictly to the Hispanics, because I've got them on board now. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarifications, because that's why I offered to roll some into the other money.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, and thank you for all this time. I didn't expect to
Yep.
get this much.
Nope.
Of course, John. All the time you need, man.
All the time, yeah, well. How are you doing?
Great, how are you, man? Good. Group still going all right?
I got 10 tickets sold last night.
Outstanding.
Now we get to the fun stuff.
Outstanding. See you, John.
Alrighty.
Sheesh.
Discussion of ARPA committees.
Here today, last time we heard from 3 different committees. Today we'll hear from the final 3 committees, and the committees today are Community Health, Financial Administration, and Public Safety. So we will kick it off with Community Health, and the 2 commissioners that sit on the Community Health Committee for ARPA are Commissioner Newman and Commissioner Erickson. And the first proposed project is the Todd Integrated Dispositional Alternative, which is TIDA. There's a proposed financial implication of $113,200, and this is an internal and external impact, and it would be sustained through grant funds and other types of funding that Corrections is looking at. So Kathy and Jackie, we'll let you take it away.
Great, thank you. This is an updated list. We did remove things that we didn't feel needed to be on here anymore, so we cleaned it up a little bit. But our top priority through the committee at this point is the TITA position, and I'll let Kathy take it over as she can better speak to that, I think, than I can.
Thanks, Jackie. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So the $113,000 that we are asking for would represent a year and 3 months worth of salary for our pretrial supervision agent position. A few years ago, we got a grant in October of 19 to hire a pretrial agent. And this is something that in my 30-some years of experience at Todd Corrections was a hole in the system. Pretrial coverage, pretrial supervision. The courts would put somebody on pretrial, order all kinds of conditions, and there was nobody to monitor them. And so we were successful in getting a grant from the Justice Assistance Grant, the Byrne Foundation, and that's a federal grant. We got it in October of 2019. It lasted through September of 2021. We were lucky enough to get another one, which ends September 30th of this year. And we're seeing some real good results with that, and we are hoping that ARPA funding could help us, could gap fund us until we could seek additional funding through grants. We do have a history of successful grant writing, and so hopefully we could find something there. Additionally, as you know, the legislature for the very first time, I believe, is taking our all 87 counties' requests for additional state funding for probation seriously. I was at a legislative hearing last Friday, and the one of the gentlemen speaking, one of the commissioners, held up a stack of papers, and he said, this is 86 counties worth of resolutions asking for increased state funding for probation. There was one county that was short or that had not yet submitted it, but I think today they are going to be passing that. That's pretty incredible to get every single county on its own initiative to do that. So I'm really, really hopeful that we will see some additional funding this year that would allow us to continue this pretrial position. Another piece about the pretrial position is it fits very well with the TITA, Todd Integrated Dispositional Alternatives. And if you know, Jackie or John, if you want to speak more on that, I certainly support that. But the cases that are coming through that program are extremely difficult. They are high need due to mental illness. It could be substance abuse, being homeless, not having really any kind of resources to navigate the criminal justice system, let alone life. And so we are dedicating this agent's time to that program. And if we can keep that going through December of 24, we think that we will be able to have some good outcome measures to share with the board. And so you can see that this is in fact making a difference. So the $113,000 is a request for funding a corrections agent for 15 months.
Mr. Chair, may I ask Director Langer a couple of questions?
Yep.
It's true that the previous pretrial supervisor just resigned, yes?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that securing this funding would be essential for recruiting and hiring a new one, so to let that person know that the money's going to be there?
Yes, it's extremely difficult to hire somebody and say funding's good for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
you know, especially with what is the qualifications that are required for this position.
The second thing, and thank you for the time, how many hours a week do you think that the former pretrial supervisor spent working directly with the new TITA coordinator or person in social services?
So I would say daily, and my personal observations, along with the chronological notes that are written into the case files, I would say 2 to 3 hours a day.
Yeah. And these aren't just emails, these are like ride-alongs, like visiting people, screening together?
Absolutely. Yep, meeting with people, going over to meeting other justice partners, lobbying for some kinds of resources to help that client out.
Is it fair to say TITA doesn't work with that pretrial supervisor?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Kathy, if I could ask you, was this position funded through a grant through the state to begin with, or not? Was this always through ARPA funding?
This has no ARPA funding right now, Commissioner.
No, it
We
was always
got
funded through state, right, or?
Federal.
Federal, okay.
Yep, we got a federal grant in October of 2019, and we were lucky enough to get another grant, 2-year grant,
Yep.
in October of 21, and now that runs out September of 23.
Their new federal fiscal year starts, and federal fiscal year is always October, state is typically July. So that kind of helps
Okay,
with knowing
kind of.
federal, state.
Then moving forward, after our ARPA money's gone, how are we going to keep the program going?
Commissioner, that is always the question of the day when we're asking for funding for
Yeah.
a position. I can't fully answer that because I don't know what our funding is going to be like. This year, more than ever before in corrections, I don't know how we're going to end up with state funding. I'm very hopeful that we will see additional state funding that will help us continue to fund this very position. Additionally, as always, I will continue to write for grants.
Does Wadena County also use this program, or is this strictly a Todd County program?
Wadena County uses this program. It is not, they don't get the hours dedicated to TITA like
we do.
Like Todd County
Do
does.
they also put financing into the program or not?
It is budgeted for 23 financing in the program.
I think it's an excellent program, but it's how we're going to maintain it and keep it going.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I can ask to follow up with that?
Yeah.
Do you know how much Wadena is contributing, a dollar amount?
I don't at this moment. I would have to go back and check that.
It's a wonderful program. I just have, and I will be visiting with the auditors on this because it came up in CARES, and I fully support it. I just think audit standards really, we walk a fine line and it gets muddy when we're dealing with agency. Community Corrections is an agency of Todd County. It's not Todd County. So I want the Board of Commissioners to be aware, we have to know how we allocate this money for audit standards. So I'm gonna visit with them strongly on this because I don't want us to get in a catch-22. I'm fully in favor of it, and maybe the board would look at making an appropriation of the ARPA funds to Kathy's division, and not just saying we're gonna support this. Just give them an X amount of dollar, and then she can
Do it.
decide what she needs to.
Do what she
That's just
wants.
my opinion right now, but I will be checking with the auditors and maybe even doing a conference call with Danny, our consultant that we have on spending. That's just, I wanted you to be aware of that.
And Mr. Chair, we, Todd Wadena Community Corrections, are also separately financially audited annually as well.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
All right, next priority we have is a 2, so it's lower, is that certified nursing assistant training. for $3,775. We do continue to have struggles hiring. It would be helpful to train those CNAs, pay for their time to be in class and the class. There are state opportunities that fund that as well. Those classes book out quickly, but I just want to let you know that there is funding that is available, although the classes fill up, so lower priority. Next is the eligibility worker at a half cost. If you recall, we did take this to board. I believe the date is 2021, and it was approved through resolution to fund that position. We, through time, and it's a half cost because we're 50% funded through the state with this position. We believe that by the end of ARPA funding, we should be able to absolve that position through a retirement or resignation. So we will not be a +1 ahead by the time this funding dollars come and go. So we're going to try and be as planful as we can as the timing of the ARPA funding ends. But we'll keep this in front of you at all times. But appreciate the support in getting that additional person, especially now as you're seeing 2021, we're able to train them up because it takes about a year to do that. So, and then the Title III funding for the home delivered meals, you allocated $10,000, and we've only exhausted $2,954 of those dollars. So I think there can be some reconsideration. We haven't had any requests, but also they have gone and requested additional funding for dollars to do that. So through the Aging Council. Pardon me? That came in, yeah, absolutely. That was those individuals or elderly that were discharged from the hospital. They were put on a waiting list for affordable meals. And in order to go home and be healthy, we wanted to be sure that they were being fed. So much appreciated for the support in that. So.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add a little bit of clarification to that eligibility worker position. So if the request is for this position to continue until the end of 2024, if that's where the need is, that approved amount would change to approximately $90,000. So we just want to pay attention to that when we're looking at allocating money.
Okay.
All right, next on the list is.
Thank you, guys. So the next is financial and administration, and this committee consists of Commissioner Noska and Commissioner Becker. And so with that, we have two items on here that are as a potential, one of them being the consulting services of CLA and the other one being an HR DDA program. Denise, I'll let you kind of speak to that first one if you would. This is consulting.
Yep. We had, during the CARES, had to utilize Clifton Larson Allen, which is our auditor, just to follow the GASB standards and the standards set forth by the feds in this program. And it was useful. We did have visits and Zoom meetings with Danny. And then going into this ARPA spending, we thought maybe we should continue that just as a one-time through this ARPA cycle, just so we could feedback, like in the case in point here when I was talking about Kathy Langer's in the TITA program with courts and community corrections. We don't want to be doing anything outside the guidelines, so it's good to visit with them. And this Danny actually works directly with the feds, and so he's on daily Zoom meetings with them, learning everything about ARPA. And this way we can reach out and talk to them when we need to. And we did allocate $7,500, and in talking with Doug Host, our principal auditor, he said that was a fair amount to allocate because the amount that we are spending would probably fall under a single audit that they'll have to do on this funds that we received. So that's why we thought we better put that in there.
Okay. And the next item is an HR DDA program, kind of as a one-year trial period is what we looked at over a year ago when we discussed this. A little bit of background on this. AMC in the past offered an HR DDA service, and it was free of charge to all counties. And since that time, AMC has now had a cost attached to that, and that cost is $4,900 annually. And what this program does is it provides some HR legal information to counties who buy into this, and it's been very helpful. It was very helpful when it was free, and we since have not had access to that. We are extremely fortunate that we have a county attorney who's very proactive with things that we need today, so that's great. With the bringing on of a new HR manager, there is also an HR Pathways program that's put on through AMC, and if we wanted the HR manager to take part in that Pathways program, having a subscription to the DDA program is a requirement. So there would be kind of a twofold benefit to this. And this is something that is not a one-time cost. We would request use of ARPA funds, and then we would want to build that into the budget, just so we're being very transparent. So with that, I can go over the items that have already been approved with the Financial and Administration Committee. One of them was the broadband grant we just did for SciTech, and that was $5,000. That will not get paid out unless they are successful in receiving those grant funds. The other one was the Historical Society appropriation of $6,500. That's a one-time cost. And then the eligible micro purchases, and the amount is $36,565. And we heard through Finance Committee that those are really slowing down, and the need to have those dollars available for the micro purchases is almost next to none, if that's correct. Okay, that's all from Financial and Administration. If we're ready, we can move on to Public Safety. And that committee is made up of Kathy Langer, John Lindeman, and Mike Allen, along with the commissioners of, I'm going to say Commissioner Noska and Commissioner Becker, I believe, for that one. Okay. Okay, and we do not have our sheriff here today, I'm sorry to say, so I'm going to ask for some help on walking through this. Court Security Officer.
Sure, I can take the lead on that, Mr. Chair. As all of the board members may know, there were some gaps with the prior sheriff administration in court security funding, which left our courthouse unsecured, nobody at the metal detector for hours at a time, sometimes full days. Which, you know, it's understandable. You know, we're coming off of COVID. We had, you know, lots of days where we had no court, we had full months where we had no court at all, but we're starting to have more and more in-person court. Also on that floor is my office and corrections. And people, especially in corrections, come in and have closed-door meetings with probation agents, and if they're not being screened before they go into a closed room with anything could happen. And I hope I don't need to put too fine a point on it. So Sheriff Allen is asking for some gap funding to make sure that the sheriff's office can staff that point of entry at the metal detector all the time, no matter what. We have somebody there now. He needs time off. He has other things to do. Sheriff Allen has a plan for utilizing somebody kind of on either end of their shift to fill in as needed, but above all, making sure from 8 to 4:30 there's somebody at that security checkpoint, period, without exception. If somebody needs the bailiff, we'll make sure that somebody's still at the security checkpoint while there's a deputy in court. This was an easy choice as the #1 priority. It's not optional. And again, this is gap funding. Did I miss anything?
No.
The second thing is the EOC training room. This is, if you've been down in the law enforcement center, imagine the command center for COVID. It's been used as a meeting room. I know it's been used as a training room. When we have security briefings with other agencies, this is where it's done. The problem is, this room doesn't have a bathroom that you can access very easily, or sink. And so in order to allow someone to either use a sink or use a bathroom, it's an ordeal, and it's an unnecessary ordeal. Because this room, the EOC room, is so well used and will be used in the future, not just for meetings, but also for medical checks, right? For because we contract with the local hospital because inmates get medical, conditions and need to be monitored. There's no real place to do that right now. So this room will, with these renovations proposed, will better serve not just law enforcement or guests to law enforcement, but the inmates as well.
Additionally, this room is also used for very serious cases involving death, homicides, of which we have had in Todd County, and so visiting law enforcement, particularly the BCA, uses it to coordinate the investigation locally.
Yep, the command center, absolutely. And then part of it, I don't want to get too far in the weeds here, but we're contemplating, cords that come down from the ceiling so folks can plug in, not just to power, but to the internet. And I think this is a really, really important allocation for the board to consider. Thank you. I'm up again. I feel, as Kathy can share, I feel somewhat conflicted about asking for anything because I feel so strongly about those first two, but I will. As I've mentioned before in these meetings, because we're doing different things in my office, handling different types of cases, and really operating at full steam in so many ways, the attorneys in the office are overworking the support staff. That's a fact. As a result, and because of the increased requirements on our support staff to go paperless, to do e-filing, now actually file exhibits for trial with the court, so much has been dumped on our staff that they don't have time to do things. And so it's sadly commonplace for us not to get disclosures, stuff that the defense attorneys need for a case on Monday. It's common for us to not get it out until Friday because the ladies are too busy staying caught up, staying afloat with other things that have to be done or are on the front burner. So, asking for gap funding. I'm asking for gap funding for not only a fourth support staff to help the 5 attorneys in my office, but also to blow out part of the wall, if you've been in my office where Gene and Sonia sit, to make that space more open for those 4 people to do their work. Lastly, part of this proposal includes, can I say this publicly? An annexation of one office that corrections isn't using, and that would allow us to have finally a back door out of our office, which has been, and we have one onto the roof now in case of a fire, which is nice, but this would allow us a door for ingress and egress, which is something that's been an issue for a long, long time. So the $110,000 is a gap fund again for salary benefits for one person for year, I think is what it turned out. I don't remember if it was 6 months or a year.
I think a year.
Until we can get it budgeted for 2024, like normal. And also for the construction and the renovation to make space for that fourth person. That's it.
Okay, the next item, number 4 on the list, is for cameras and displays. And these are at several different locations. Camera and display at the Court Security Station, in the Justice Center, the West Entrance, which we've had some walkthroughs, and that's been a point that's been noted that we should have some cameras at. And then the Staples location, Public Works, and the Hilltop parking lot, main campus. All of these locations have been a point of discussion to have some cameras at, and there is potential with these funds to have that opportunity to do so. We do not have a proposed cost on that. We're still waiting on that from Mike Wisniewski. And the next item would be additional lighting in the northeast parking lot, a minimum of 2 lights. We have a proposed cost of $6,000 for that. That would affect the safety of the employees. But this item specifically, because of that dollar amount, and we kind of felt that maybe that would be a good fit to move to facilities and not have it within these ARPA dollars. The next item is bollards or barricades outside of the Sheriff's Office and Health and Human Services, and this is really just to protect some of our utilities in the event that somebody would accidentally maybe drive through those, and just really to not have that happen. That's at a $3,000 cost, and again, we are going to be looking at moving that to facilities and not utilizing the ARPA funds for that. And the last one is Sheriff's impound lot, doing some insulation and some overhead doors, just some other work within that, and that estimated cost is $65,000 to that. And I don't know if we want to expand on that anymore at this, or if we want to just discuss that within facilities.
Probably.
Yeah. So that's another item that we thought really would be a better fit for the Facilities Committee to address and utilize maybe those funds that we have within building improvement.
And also the water, if there's a water problem with the floor out there, yeah.
Yeah. So looking at adding a drain and some other corrective measures to make sure that new building stays in really good shape.
And Mr. Chair, that building serves several departments. So it is not just law enforcement.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you, Kathy. And then to just look at the things that have already been approved through public safety, through the ARPA funds, the sheriff's resources for a deputy. The cost that has been spent to date on the deputy is $57,958.35. That has not been touched since, I believe, last June, maybe? End of June, so last year. So we feel very confident that the remaining funds are not going to be needed. So we would like to, with a board action at the next meeting, we will put a close to that and allow those funds to be put back into the pool, just to kind of clean that up. And then the county attorney resources that was approved, that is ongoing, and that is anticipated to be done, I believe, the end of June this year. So, and that anticipation of 184,000 is pretty accurate. So I think we will utilize every bit of those funds, just so you're aware of that. And that is it for the proposals. So if you wanted to, just at kind of a quick glance, if we wanted to look at just the first and second priorities of all of these projects. And take a look at what that total cost might look like just for 1 and 2. Let me get back out of there. Those total project costs for priorities 1 and 2 would be $2,036,000. And our amount of funds available at this time are 2.4, roughly. And we know that we have some very large projects, some very big things coming in our future. We have the Justice Center, we have the rock wall, we have a lot of things, and those have not been approved yet to be used by these funds. But it may be a time to look at when we look at the projects, do we want to set aside an amount of funds just in the event that a project might run over? So just something to think about before we bring this forward at another work session or board meeting and start deciding on projects. It might be nice to first set aside a little bit of a safety net or a cushion with some of the projects.
Especially, I think, with the Justice Building next, you know, when we start that project, that roofing project, because it's been leaking for several years, and, you know, what are we going to find on the interior when they start dismantling and putting it back together? Or even the cost of some of the equipment that is set to go up there, yeah. So I think that would be a very good idea.
Right.
And the other thing is even our solid waste building in Briarville too, because that's just kind of balancing in the air right now also.
And hopefully, I think it's beginning, the early parts of May, we'll have some information back on those true costs, like the bid package, so we'll have more information coming on that as well. So with that, I would ask, and maybe we can just take some time over the next couple of weeks, but how would those next steps look as far as bringing this forward to act on any projects? If there's anything that has a really dire need to bring forward right away, so.
Okay. Is there anything else?
That's it.
Okay.